So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Day, part of World Unity Week. And we are live on Facebook and we're recording. And our guest right now, Donna Davis, and her partner, Norma Anderson. Now, these two are very special people. And we met them in 2012. We were at the, I think it was called the Oak Brook Spiritual Center then, but now they've changed that to the Ocala Center for Spiritual Living. And as you know, we are followers or students of Barbara Marx Hubbard. We walked into Reverend Peggy's office and said, you know, we're students of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And what do you think if we had an event here, like 11 days from now, and it's going to be about a birthday party for the new earth, for the new humanity. And Peggy said, sure, why not? I love Barbara Marx Hubbard. So in 11 days, Donna and Norma and Marsha McCartney was part of it. And we co-created this amazing event. And I remember going to the grocery store because we decided, Barbara decided, well, if we're going to have an event in 9 months to birth the new humanity, then this has to be Conception Day. So we're going to have Conception Day parties. So we went to the grocery store and we got a big cake and had on it, Happy Conception Day, and for birth 2012. And so that's where we met these two. Donna did a beautiful dance and Norma was part of the singing, and we just had such a marvelous event. And we have been friends ever since, kept in touch, even though we roam all over the place. And these two are roamers. So I'm going to turn it over to our dear friends, and we want them to, you know, tell us where you've been since 2012, and also about your recent adventures, because I know that you both went up to New York City, and also talk about, you know, we're talking about world unity here. And with all the things that are happening in the streets and around the country, I don't want to pretend that everything's happy. I want to say, like, how are you all dealing with the issues that are now happening? I know Bob and I have been part of marches and other things, and voter registration drives and a lot of other things to make some of the change. But let's have a conversation, and I'll follow your lead. So with that, I turn it over to you.
All right. Well, hi, Noelle. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
I cannot express how very proud we are of you guys and all the work you guys have been doing.
Amazing.
In the world and in this country. And it really takes people on the front lines of change. And so that's what we are so proud about. And that so many more people on these calls and in this Unity Week has been doing the same thing, just in their own little pocket of the world. And that's what we've been doing since 2012, just seeing a brand new world and seeing it come to fruition. It seems as if the world is falling apart. And what we told a lot of people, that we worked with a lot of nurses in New York, and one of the things was, you know, this fear around what's happening right now in the world. Well, it turns out that, and I said to them, you know, if there was a wound that needed to be cleaned, you know, this wound is there, everybody can smell the gangrenous is taking root. How do you take care of this? You have to get in there, you have to open it up, you have to debride it, you have to use lots and lots and lots of love fluid in there to flush it out in order for real healing to take place. And that's what we're doing right now. We're flushing it out. And as people are marching and doing their thing, we know that that's what they're doing. They're getting in there, hands are getting dirty in the dirt and pulling it out. You have to do it. And it looks messy right now, but just wait. It's coming.
Well, that's what I love about you two, is that you're so positive. And then echo again, turn that off too. And you're being modest also. When I met you, I don't think you were a reverend, and I don't think you were a nurse. And you all have gone through such an evolution that I want you to talk about your path also. And what was your guiding principle? What kept you like focused and determined and to turn into these superstars, heroes, that's how we hold you?
Well, for me, it was about being an example. You know, it's people tend to, for whatever reason, look to us for what to do, how to act, what to even believe. So a lot of times when we are interacting with people, you know, I remember my first conversation with Cindy about going into becoming a practitioner, which is basically a prayer partner. And I said to her, Cindy, I don't think that I should take these classes or become a prayer partner. And she said, why not? You have the consciousness. And I said, because I tend to tell people like it is. And she said, well, some people like need to hear that. And that's how I see myself today when people are talking about how things are in the world, you know, and then, you know, do your part. Everybody wants to sit back and woe is me and this should be happening and this person is doing that. What is your part in this? And that's how and you know, it brings people to face up with what, you know, their part is and how they can help whatever situation they're complaining about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think also she's talking about just living it. You know, it can say all day long, I believe in this, and I think we should be this, and we should be this light and love. But when you are faced with someone, and the guiding principle I know that we hold to, and that's why I love Centers for Spiritual Living, because it's holding to that this is an expression of the oneness, just expressed this way in this moment right now, looking at me. So when that person's doing their thing, I'm thinking to myself, what story brought you to this moment? And why are you choosing to behave this way in this moment? And then I start to think about what that storyline might be. And once I start to do that, I start to see them as spirit expressing. And I go, yeah, tell me more about this story. Tell me more. And it changes the way that people look at you and the way that people communicate with you. It changes your perception of what's happening when you start to look at it that way. And once you recognize, oh, it's the allness. Oh, yeah. Then you can let go and ride the wave.
Wonderful. Well, I think we have our two computers under control here on the same table. And so it's safest for us to just be in the same screen with you. And I would like to ask you about a little bit more, if you would, that Noelle was asking about your spiritual journey since we first met you in 2012, and how that relates to your, for lack of a better word, your career path, because then we're going to talk about this big question that we have before us in all of World Unity Week. What is needed now to mobilize a world unity movement? And of course, we really want people to know what you two have been up to for the last 3 months since Mother Nature provided us with this opportunity called COVID-19. So if you would, each of you, tell us a little bit about your career path in the last 8 years and how you relate that to your spiritual growth, your spiritual belief systems.
Well, I 8 years ago, I was already a minister. I was a minister with, Alliance of Divine Love. And the premise behind that is just divine love and treat everything with the greatest degree of love. So when I found CSL, it was when I just graduated ministerial school, and Reverend Peggy I said to her, I have to be under a minister for a year. And she said, yes, absolutely, come. And she said, what is your ministry? And I said, well, I think it's music. And that's when we started working together to get a choir. Thus, we had Joyful Noise. And then when you guys showed up, it was Joyful Noise and us that got together and did the music and all of that. Fast forward a little bit, over the 8 years, we took a lot of classes in CSL. And as we took the classes, it was just more. You just wanted to know more and feel more and connect more. And that's when we said, okay, I said, I'm going to be a practitioner of this. I want to be able to sit down with somebody and hold space for them and know their truth, even if they don't. And so I said to Norma, it'd be so fun if you took the classes with me so we could talk to each other about it. And she back to Cindy and said, no, people don't want me as a practitioner because I'm going to tell them the realness. And Cindy said, some people have to have it that way because they just can't see through the fluff. They need it in that real talk. And there is a place for that where we found that it's really effective. Mm-hmm. And then we had those kids. I think you guys came around when we had all those children with us.
Right.
Yeah. And so we have done a magazine article about that. And then just recently did another article about them leaving and being empty nesters now. And so we've just been doing, I know, right? We're not gonna be, well, no, we'll be empty nesters for a while. Just found out we're having a grandbaby.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't know whether Norma you didn't know that Norma had another kid in the house or something. I don't know what that little thing was.
I am the other kid in the house.
She is the other.
You are the other kid in the
I
house.
believe that. I can believe that.
It's a lot of fun to be around.
Yes, sirree.
Then we became practitioners. We did the classes and went and did the studies and became practitioners. And once we became licensed as practitioners within Centers of Spiritual Living, then we could sit with people and be prayer partners and just kind of sit in that space of knowing who they really are and holding that for them so that we can then do treatment, which is affirmative prayer, which then brings about the change that they're looking for. And the reason we call it treatment is because you are treating how your mind is looking at that thing. It's like if you were always told that this is a mouse, this is a mouse, this is a real mouse with a tail and a squeak and everything, and you're afraid of it because it's going to wiggle at any moment. And if somebody comes along and says, no, it's always been just a regular computer mouse. And you just realize, oh yeah, that's what it's been this whole time. There's nothing to be afraid of. That's what treatment does. It reminds you, oh yeah, this is the allness. Duh, we're all spirit expressing. There's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to ask, I know that you all were called to New York City as a nurse and massage therapist and spent 3 months there. And you can describe the conditions and what you saw there, but what I'm really interested in when we spoke with you the other week, was how the teachings from the Centers for Spiritual Living, CSL, how you just manifested, even going to New York, and how that played out in your life, and how strong you had to hold to what your beliefs are. And it sounded like you were in the flow.
Big time in the flow. So that's the thing. When we went to New York, it was because we saw that a friend of mine had posted something. Hey, they're looking for nurses. Anybody interested that can move, go ahead and contact them. So I called and was like, hey, I don't have small kids anymore. My mom was in a nursing home. She had just had surgery, but she was doing great. So we could go ahead and just go. And so we got through to them and said, hey, we're willing to come. We have a license. We want to help. We get there. And when I remember being in the airport and we were thinking about getting on the flight, and we could see that there was practically nobody in the airport. And we thought, what are we thinking? Like, everybody's running away from the aircraft.
We're going in. Airplanes that hold 175 people had 18 people on.
Yes.
So
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Were you wearing masks?
No, there was
not
no
at that
mask
point.
at that point. There was no mask.
It was before then.
And we get to the hotel and we get signed in. And of course, it was me as the nurse. They didn't call for massage service. She came to support me and to also support the other nurses, which is what she does as a massage therapist. So I was thinking, my back, I don't know how long I can stand or how many shifts I can do. And then she was like, babe, I'll be there to help rub your feet in the evening, rub your back, make sure you can stay on the front lines and do what you need to do. I'll be here cheering you on, which she does beautifully. When we get there, and I was like, there were other nurses in that, and I said, okay, I'm gonna share that with them too. I won't keep this treasure all to myself. So we were
actually, we got there March 22nd. That's when March 21st. And the first day was just kind of her orienting, and we were kind of hanging around. The first week she was in the hospital, the 24th through the 1st. By August 3rd, April 3rd, I had nurses texting me, Miss Norma, I hear you do massages, can you help me? And this was after they'd been there a week. By the time we'd been there 3 weeks, 7 nurses a day. And I don't even do that when I'm here in Cala. Yeah. But while, when massaging them, we'd have conversations, and, they're going through all their angst and their tension and other things that they're going through on their daily, their normal daily routine. And I would actually give them positive affirmations and things to help hold their lives together with them, and teach some of them meditation and just little things that would help them get up, draw their experience to a more calm place. So they would come for a massage and they'd get so much more.
But it's speaking to their potential, and speaking to their humanity. And I think that that's what's happening, especially now that people are forgetting that we're all humans, that we're all a part of it. So we rename people. We give them different, we'll say, okay, they're doing this, so they have to be this. And that was what was happening. For me, when I saw patients, when I was on the floor as a regular nurse and I saw patients, I would say, okay, this is God showing up, having this experience.
Wow.
And then I would treat them as such. This is God having this experience. How can I help them through this experience? Because that's really all it is. We're having the experiences, right? So we got there and I'm there for like a week. And then after about a week, they said to me, oh, I got an email. Oh, we need you to be team lead. And I thought, okay, what is that? Because before we got there, I said, in treatment, I said, I want my best skills to be used in the most amazing way that I can for as many people as I could. That was my intention that I placed in affirmative prayer. And we said it both at the same time. We did not realize that meant that Spirit was going to say, oh, hey, you're team lead now. And guess what? Now I'm standing in front of the bus, in front of these. We started with 7, and I thought, oh, I'm a team lead. I can speak for 7 nurses. We can, powwow together and come up with what we need and let the bosses know and whatever. It was like a week and a half later, I walked on the bus that was full. I stood there because I got up on the bus like everybody else, and you get your little backpack and you're ready to go to work. And I stopped and paused for a moment. And I said, where did all these people come from? Because I said, hey, we need more nurses. We need more nurses. It was devastating what was going on. And we needed more people with more hands to lighten the load, because nobody understood the disease process. Nobody knew what to expect. Like, we were flying blind, completely blind with these patients. And so that was it. And I just kept doing my thing in the background. You know what, we can do this. It was a lot of shifts. We were looking at a lot of shifts. We had this contract that seemed like these shifts could have been way too much for a regular nurse. And here we are going in, grounding up, suiting up, trying to find the proper PPE and to feel protected. And I had to be able to say, wait a minute, that's the story.
Wow.
All of the story, even though it seems the realest. And once I was able to tap into that, I can speak from that for everybody else. Oh, it's the story. Here, let's have fun.
But every morning on the bus, once she became team lead and she felt empowered to speak to the entire group, she would give her morning affirmations and have them all do daily gratitudes and what have you. And she'd give, I don't know if you know this, but she likes to talk.
I do.
So, so she would speak to them every morning. And as I'm massaging this one girl, she said, oh, Miss, because we, like I said, we talked during the massage. Very few of them were very quiet. But she said, Miss Donna's so inspiring on the bus in the morning. She said she records her so that during the day she can replay, and it helps to get her through whatever issues she may be experiencing, when she goes through whatever trauma or whatever thing that she's having to do. And Donna would always tell them, one shift at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. Don't think about what you have to do. Yeah. And it'll overcome you. Just take it all one
patient at a time, one shift, one conversation. When somebody would butt up against somebody else that was going through their trauma and playing their story, I would say to them, okay, stop and say, this is just a drop in the bucket of time. That's all this is, a drop. Are you going to remember this person, this face, their name, this conversation 10 years from now? No, you won't. It'll be gone. So stop and say, how much energy do I want to place here? And if the answer is none, because I'm busy worrying about my patient, then and let go of it. Know that this person's going through their story. Watch them play their story out in front of you.
Wow.
And that it helps.
I get it.
What I find very interesting is the language you're telling us that you were using with them about, just one patient at a time in 1 hour and that sort of thing. The language that we would speak, of course, is that you were living in the present moment. You were inviting them to be in the present moment. So a big question for me is, we know you and we know the reality that you have, that you're spiritual beings. One of you is living in this physical form and doing this job thing called massage therapist, and the other one is called a nurse. It has skill set and his career as a nurse and that sort of thing. But you both recognize yourself as who you truly are, spiritual beings. And you recognize the rest of us that are on this call, the rest of us that are involved in World Unity Week as such. The nurses, the firemen that were there to cheer you on every day up and down the line when you were going up and down the line in the buses, all that we saw of you on Facebook, they don't all necessarily have the belief system that we do, of oneness, of unity, of that we're all brothers and sisters, that we're all the face of God shown differently. And so my question for you is, how did you bring you were doing what you were doing through your spiritual self, through your higher selves. How were you received? And I think this is very important. How did you communicate? Because there were probably Christians and atheists and thisers, thaters, and whatever category and labels you want to put on people that were there on your team, and Norma that you were giving massages to. And how did you bring your spiritual practice? What language did you use with them? And how did they receive that? Because I think it'd be an important lesson for all of us on the call tonight to perhaps be practicing more in our lives.
Well, I know for me, a lot of times when you're talking to people, let them talk first, because you can see what they're coming from, what their belief system basically is. And so you can then structure exactly what you normally would say to any other, science-minded unity or spiritual person, but Christianize it, or take God out of it and use general terms. And people tend to, when you find a common ground, there's so much open to whatever it is you have to tell them.
That's exactly it. The thing is, when you're talking to someone, you're also talking to their story. So you have to kind of pull out of them what the story is. And once you figure out what that common ground is, like you said, you speak to that and be as general as possible. So if I know that that person has a background that is God, then I will say God. But if I know that person doesn't have that background, or you can tell they have a little bit of resistance to your language, then I will say, I believe that all of us is energy. And then if they say, yeah, me too, or, then you just kind of go in different, it's an ebb and flow really, depending on the person and what their story is. But you have to figure out what their storyline is a little bit, touch into it a little bit. And that's where the quiet comes in. You just listen to them.
Because once you find that commonality, that common ground, they just open up, and then you find so many other things that you can draw out to expound upon and draw them closer to, be more interested in what you have to say.
And I use a lot of stuff like, I'll say, for me, I think blah, blah, blah. Or in my experience, I have this. And so that way it personalizes it, and it doesn't make it seem I'm saying them.
Right. So you all are excellent counselors, and that you can, the listening, what Norma brought up, the listening and being with them. And, I really want to commend you, because I can imagine all the pressure that you were under in that very stressful time, and that you could still keep the focus, that you could still realize what you were there to do. And also, we could never measure it, but I can just see that the ripple that you made with your love and kindness and light, and some people say to us, well, you know, people don't care about the environment, or they don't do anything, or whatever. And why you bother talking to them? And you kind of go, you just plant the seed and you never know where or when it's going to blossom. But I can just see you all up there with that.
These grinder things to throw out the seeds.
Fast grinder things, just throwing it out. And I do have another question to ask you. Did you feel anything, you know, I'm just going to be blunt. Did you feel any pushback because of race there when you were in that situation?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, I was surprised when we got there to find out how many Black nurses there were in this pandemic that were volunteering. That just, I didn't expect that at all. So, but actually of the number of people massaged, it was probably half and half, you know, Black and white. Even the men, almost straight down the middle, Black versus white. But the number of Black nurses that were there would probably be at least 80% of them.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow. That itself is just commendable, you know, just thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of minority nurses. The thing that struck me the most, though, is the hospital itself was so diverse. Their staff was like the gambit of races, and their patient load, however, was mostly of the Asian or Latin persuasion. There weren't very many Black patients that I saw, and I was all over that hospital. So as team lead, I had to run all the floors to make sure all the nurses had what they needed. So I didn't see very many African-American people, but I guess it's just the hospital I was at.
Yeah.
And what part of New York were you all in exactly?
The hospital's in Queens, but we were staying in Manhattan.
Yeah. So we were at epicenter, off the epicenter
at Elmhurst.
At Elmhurst. Yeah. Yes.
Very good. I was also going to ask, well, you know, one of your great mentors I see is on here, Cindy Grimes is, and I know a lot of others. So if you all want to, anyone wants to chime in or ask a question, the chat is open. Yeah. And I know you have a lot of your supporters from Ocala Center for Spiritual Living. And, you know, we keep in touch with Cindy. I know she's working for peace, and we just love seeing the blossoming of that community. And it always impressed us about your community was the diversity there, which is not something easy to find in Ocala, Florida, would you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, our center is probably the most diverse spiritual center I've ever been in. I mean, like, we have all kinds.
A range of age and ethnicity
and backgrounds and socioeconomic range. It's the most wonderful little petri dish of yumminess that ever existed. And what's interesting is that I think that is an example of what we can be in the world, because it's okay to be whatever little thing you're into or however your story's working out, and we all still accept you.
And that's the key, acceptance. That's the key. And if the world would take that as their acceptance and love, those are the ground. If they just would accept people how they are, as for who they are, and love everyone, there would be world unity, not just for your community or your church or what have you. It would expand all over.
And it's so easy to love people when you realize they're God expressing. It's like, oh, okay. But not everybody has that, you know, belief system. So I'll say to them, and I said this to one nurse, I remember trying to explain to her how I got to that. She said, well, how can you love this person? Because it was a patient, it was being really difficult. And I said, okay, right now you're speaking to the disease process, which is his drug addiction. That's what you're speaking to. But him, think about who he is. It took this particular egg with this specific sperm to come together in this particular moment at this drop of time to have this particular spark happen. And why did it happen? And when that spark happened, without anybody's say so or anything, everything happened beautifully, divinely, just unfolded and unfolded, unfolded to create this beautiful being that came forth. And then the story takes that person and decisions are made. And as decisions are made, it changes the storyline. So when you're looking at that patient, don't think about his disease process right now. Think about the little spark that it took to bring this perfect being. That is what you connect to. And that's God.
I need to hire you all as counselor.
Of course we do.
But it's easy to get to the love when you look at them as coming out as beautiful beings.
You are so beautiful, both of you. But I do have another question I want to talk about. We don't have a lot of time left, but I want to talk about your Phoenix is Rising.
Yes.
It's about, come on, bring it, girls.
Well, a little bit of your Phoenix is Rising kind of overlapped into the end of the Elmhurst experience at the hotel. We did two evenings meditation, guided meditation, and yes, and
Wow.
the first night I did it, the girl that helped Donna organize it, Donna went around introducing everyone, and when she introduced herself, she told of her credentials and affiliation with the Centers for Spiritual Living and what have you. And the meditation went wonderfully. Everybody was just so invigorated. And actually, the next day, the people would tell us how much better they slept. The first night they slept forever. But the girl that helped to organize it with Donna came running up to her after that first meditation and said, "Oh my God, you're CSL? Me too." I was like,
She was like, "You're leaving in 2 days." But your Phoenix is Rising actually started because Norma and I, we had always sat down with other couples. People would come to us and say, "You have such a strong relationship. Can you tell us how you do it?" Like,
we want what you have, is what they'd always
correct.
tell us.
I mean, now it's been 14 years and we don't argue. We don't do any of that stuff.
That's because I know she's always right.
It's true.
You and me, Norma, you and me.
So we would sit with them and we would talk to them and we'd go through that. And I said, I really think that I feel, and this is how I know this is my Dharma. It doesn't matter how tired I am or hungry or anything else. Let somebody say to me, "Miss Donna, I need to speak to you." And let me step into that allness, and it just drops through you, this divine download, and I feel so much better. And so will pass, and I have no clue it's passing. So I said to her, "Hey, we could do this. We could be relationship coaches." So then we started, and I said, "Okay, we've started many, many, many things. However, this one will just go slowly, and we'll do it via breadcrumbs. Like the spirit says, go here, then do the next one. And if it goes here, then do the next one. Go all from the heart space." And that's what we started doing. Well, we sat down with a couple of people and trying to give them relationship coaching, and guess what? We couldn't, because their
It was trying to
personal
start,
coaching
yeah.
was such an issue. So we said, aha, that's what it is. We need to get into the personal, and that's what started it. And we do mind, body, and spirit, and that's where your Phoenix is Rising came from.
And part of the spirit, we do a lot of sound healing.
Oh,
And
really?
York, we got
Workshops.
people texting me, "When are you guys come back? We need to," and I said, "Oh, it's just about you. You want a massage?" And they said, "No, we like a lot of the spiritual stuff you guys do too." So that was, these are people that have never come to the center. They've not, but they'll come
They don't
for
do anything else.
they'll come for the meditations that we have and the sound healing things,
And the drums.
because they all have their own churches that they go to on Sunday. So, but it's our way of still being able to draw in a little bit of the unity,
Yeah. And to support because that's their modality. That's how they connect to the oneness, is to go to whatever denomination calls to them and gives them peace. So it's okay. You still do that. And then when you come to my sound bowl, I'll say to you, "Hey, how was Mass this week? Was it fabulous?" We talk about that and we just validate that and speak to that. But kind of
Feeling it's it's those buffet lunches we used to have. The potlucks.
The potlucks. Well, listen, we're going to have to, we know that you, with that skill set, we are going to be probably, I told you on our call a little bit ago, we're going to watch Barbara Marx Hubbard's autobiographical documentary starting at 11 o'clock tonight on this Co-Creators Convergence Day channel. And so we'll be giving you a call about 1 tomorrow morning and asking you to kind of walk us through so we can get a good night's sleep, okay? That'd be all right. No, I really do want to ask you one final, if you have anything else to share about this, what your experience through the 3 months and any other time, do you have anything else you'd like to share about this big question that this whole week is exploring about what is needed to mobilize a world unity movement? There's so many organizations. There are 200 organizations that are just involved in this week's organizing. And so there's so many good things that are going on in the world. You all are examples of that, of course, as is CSL and Ocala. But if there are any final thoughts you've got about what else can any of us be doing that would contribute to a world unity movement?
So one of the things I didn't mention when we were talking about Your Phoenix is Rising, the concept behind that is that without the ashes and without the fire, there is no phoenix. There's no magic. It's just a bird hopping around, okay? In order for there to be magic, there needs to be this fire that disintegrates this bird to allow for that phoenix to rise. And how beautiful is that image? The same thing happens to us. That's the story. The things that break us down and burn us is the things that the magic happens. But you have to take the time, recognize the coals, look at them and say, ooh, let me learn from this. So right now, the world is looking at those old coals that have burned certain people and other people have thrown at them and disintegrated them. We're looking at it now going, ooh, how can we learn from this? The biggest thing is to recognize that it's even there. You have to recognize it's hot. That spot right there is hot. Let me not touch it. And you have to then say, how can I then quell that heat? And I think we can do that through rehumanizing people. These are people. These are babies that were born to moms and dads and went through a story. And so they have feelings connected to their story. And I can come along with my fabulous love and light self and, oh, my story's fabulous. Well, you have to kind of know that that's probably not where they are. And it's all right that they recognize it and they're in it, because it's like an actor learning and doing a part. They really immerse themselves into that part in order to really play this role. Sometimes the lines get blurred between character and actor. And I think that that's what's happening with a lot of people. Some of us recognize that we're just really, really good actors, and others, they're the character, they're really in it. So if we can just remind ourselves that that is just an actor playing a part and allow for them and their pain of their story, you know, sympathize, rehumanize. If that was me, how would I have felt?
And being an example, living as love.
Yes.
Living as love. You know, because a lot of people, you know, they say they love this and they love that, but do you really just embody that?
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, you will start to infect people around you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Wonderful.
Well, we do have to
certainly
close
do that.
now. We do have to close now, but I think we thank you so much for your service, for sharing your story with us. We're so honored to be a part of it and you to be part of ours. And their Facebook page is, why don't you tell us your Facebook and your website so that people can look you up, because you two just, there's so much love light around you two as a couple, separately, together. And with that, we'll close.
Thank you. Well, Deb Love said that she posted it, so there should be a link there, but it's yourphoenixisrising.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we have a lot of videos that we had posted there, different coaching videos that we posted there for free. And we just started the YouTube thing. So shout out to Deb Love for helping us with the social media part.
We contacted her when we were in New York and said, help.
Well, I think the Phoenix is rising.
Your
and,
Phoenix is rising
and
indeed.
I think you're stars.
We're going to be talking to you all as well as Cindy Grimes about International Day of Peace weekend in September. This whole thing this week is simply warm-up act for what we're going to do together collectively in September. Yeah. And so we're so glad you were here with us today.
Thank you
so much for asking. It's such a
best of luck with your
we'll
household
be
shift.
again.
We will be. again. So we're going to crank over to talk to
And love to our
Kathy now.
CSL family.
Yeah, say hi to everybody at CSL.